Hello, I'm Stephen Wilson, and welcome to the Discover Weyburn chat with the mayoral candidates. Joined today by the incumbent, Marcel Roy, and the other candidate, Nick Coroluick. Mr. Bruce Croft was unable to join us for this meeting. So today we're going to have a series of questions. These are questions created by the Discover Weyburn news team, as well as some questions that are posed from the public at large. The questions from the news team, you did have the chance to prepare your answers for. The format for this, you will each get 1 minute for an opening statement, and then we will go through and alternating back and forth who gets to answer first each of the questions, and you'll get 2 minutes for each question. And we'll go through as many of them as we can get here in around 45 minutes time. So what we'll do is we'll flip a coin to determine who goes first. And Mr. Roy, as the incumbent, you do get the advantage of you get to call the toss in the air.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
We're ready.
Heads.
It is heads. So you get your minute first.
Okay. Are we ready? Okay. I first want to start again by giving thanks and credit to our incredible community leaders and fellow councillors and hardworking employees and contractors who have accomplished really so much over the past 4 years. Without them, nothing could have been accomplished like we have done. And it continues to be my great honor to represent the amazing people of Weyburn and help them lead them down a path of progress turned out to be one of the toughest times that we've ever seen here in the last while. Together, we've accomplished important achievements in regards to city transparency, infrastructure, business development, youth development, and emergency services. And with that, yet there's still much more to be done in these categories. And I've shared this plan with a lot of people, and in person, and also on votemarcel.com. I want to continue with progress, getting things done, remain open for business, advancing forward, striving to ensure a safe and secure community, pressure government to address our doctor shortages, and reduce further costs through city asset management. Again, thank you for all the past 4 years, and I hope to get your vote here in the upcoming election.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. And now, Mr. Coroluick, your opening statement.
Thank you, Golden West and Discover Weyburn, for this forum today. I've been asked why I'm running for mayor, especially when it seems that everything is sort of okay right now. Well, I didn't feel it was right for Weyburn to settle for just an okay government, especially now. We just faced depressed oil markets and a worldwide pandemic. Businesses and citizens are living in a paradigm shift of virtual and online markets now more than ever. Our experiences are totally different than what we've had in the past, and things change drastically in days, not years like they used to. We can't just take advantage of what has been started by the past city governments. We have to forge our own trail and move quickly to take our place as leaders, not just followers. I can build a team to do that. The other reason that I'm running now is that I have the time now and I have the energy. I'll be working regular office hours at City Hall and be available to the public as well as the administration. I have the experience as a business owner. I have years of volunteer and team building experience. I have proven my dedication to our community. I'm excited about what we can be and what we're going to be. I'm asking for your vote and your confidence. Now, I look forward to answering some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Coroluick. So we'll just, for the first question, we'll go in the same order. Mr. Roy, you'll get first answer, and then Mr. Coroluick, and then we'll alternate back and forth from that point forward. The first question is, infrastructure is a key part of any city. If elected, what are 2 key infrastructure programs that you would like to see implemented by the city during your term? Mr. Roy, you have 2 minutes.
Right now, we have the usual roads, sidewalks, water, and sewage lines repairs. But above that, I want to see, really importantly, a second water source for Weyburn. And that would be continuing to working on getting a water line from Rafferty. Right now, our team at City Hall is in the queue for this. We missed the first one, but we've got another 9 years of being in the queue to bring that line into reality into Weyburn. And that would secure Weyburn with a very good secondary water source. The second thing is that we've got a team that's working to make sure that we are fixing the potholes, maintaining the streets, and city tree maintenance programs. So again, this is a huge maintenance program within our city. You don't buy a fire truck only after your house is burning. We are working together to make sure we are maintaining and continuing the beautification of Weyburn, and also make sure that we have got the main thing that's important to Weyburn, a secondary source of water for Weyburn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. Mr. Coroluick, your 2 minutes.
With the same priorities, I know that in partnership with SaskWater right now, the city and the RMs have been working on a regional water source supply from Rafferty. And the good thing about a regional source is that we're working with a number of different communities that will help keep the cost down and keep the entire area good for things like tourism and even as much as possibly irrigation for that matter. I also concur with Mr. Roy regarding the local infrastructure. Right now, I think that they've been doing a good, I feel, a pretty fair job at infrastructure, other than there's a few areas that need to be worked on, but it's to develop a local infrastructure improvement plan. If there's one being developed, then you can strategize from the aging projects and make sure that the needed pavement and sidewalks and curbing get done first, and then you can sort of plan when they're going to be needed later on, so you can prioritize the jobs. But again, the infrastructure with the water and the roads and maintenance, same thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. The next question, also from the Discover Weyburn News team. What role should the city of Weyburn play on the provincial scene in terms of other urban centers, big and small? Mr. Coroluick, you have 2 minutes, beginning now.
Well, we are a part of a global community, and I believe we should be involved on a provincial and national level with different organizations, big or small. Am I personally interested in working outside the community on any of the boards such as SUMER or FCM? No, I'm not. But if we had a member of council that wishes to be sharing and bringing home some new ideas and strategies, I'd certainly support it. Once we consider of course, the cost and the benefit values to our city. I'd like our council to be involved with different communities and going and actually experiencing some of the other cities and towns around. For example, I've been fairly fortunate the last few months. Let me rephrase that. Last year, I had an opportunity to work in Watrous for a short time. I was only there for about 3 weeks, and their town economic development officer came and talked to me. They told me about different projects that they're working on, different things that could be done in the city. Asked me to become involved even though I was on a part-time basis up there. And then 3 days later, then their economic development committee came and talked to me and showed what they were doing, offered some different suggestions with our business, but right away got me involved with the community. I never found anybody up there that was not impressed with their town. And it was quite exciting to feel and see how they were promoting themselves right from within. Those sorts of things, I believe in talking with people that are successful, and a town like Watrous, I feel, is successful, and they're working with their own people. And I think that we should be involved the same way. By us going and even doing a trade with them for a weekend, we could possibly learn from them, and they can come back down and do a switch with us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. Mr. Roy, your 2 minutes begin now.
Weyburn is a part of SUMA, and we as Weyburn intend to stay there. There are benefits to the city being a part of SUMA. We as Weyburn, we're in the big 10 cities. We sit with all the mayors in the city of Weyburn, I should say in the major cities of Saskatchewan, and thus we have an equal voice in advocacy with the province via SUMA. Weyburn's voice is only as strong as the mayor behind that voice. So to get advocacy through the province, we have to go through SUMA, and that is the best way we can work with it. We're working with others right now on the new hospital. We can see what how the hospital has come to fruition on that. Weyburn is #1 priority, to work within the province and to work with them to become this regional hub in the center of southern Saskatchewan. One of the things when we talk about looking at other places out there, I'd like to reach out, look at Morden, Manitoba and Winkler, Manitoba. They are an industrial hub of Manitoba. They are basically in the same strategic area in Manitoba as we are in Saskatchewan. That is the place where we have to look. They're very industrious. We should be bringing other industries here into Weyburn and this whole southern part of Saskatchewan via working with the provincial government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. Now, Mr. Roy, you answer this question first. Crime numbers are increasing in Weyburn. What would you look to implement if elected to help with these numbers to bring them down? Your 2 minutes.
Okay.
Start now.
Well, first off, I'd like to address this with the years of experience as a police officer and also as the chair of the police commission. The mayor is always the chair of the police commission. A rise in drug charges, that just shows an effectiveness of our police department. We have been these last few years very effective in combating a lot of the drug issues within our city. The more charges, the more people are being caught. There's a lot of rise in theft unders, and those are more minor criminal things. And even though they're on a smaller, simpler basis, they are still very disturbing to people. A theft from anyone is always disturbing. But a lot of these thefts are basically drug-related crime. Through a collaborative effort, we, the police board and the chief of police, we've developed a business plan, a roadmap that was going to tackle these problems. Three-pronged approach: enforcement and high visibility out there, awareness and education, better partnerships with health, as in that drug rehabilitation center down in Estevan, and government agencies. Lastly, we're restructuring the police department so that it's going to build more leadership within the police department, and is going to also accelerate training. So we will be very highly trained, as always, to cope with all the issues that are coming along here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. And Mr. Coroluick, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And I didn't know what of our crime figures, if they were higher or lower or whatever they were. So I called the police chief today, and as Mr. Roy has mentioned, we have had an increase in drug-related crime in the last 5 years. However, overall, from provincial stats that just came out today, we would still stand in the high average of safe places to live. We are in the top 75 out of over 300 communities. It's not so much as to what I would do personally. It's our new police administration, because they have a good handle on things and have already put in place, as Mr. Roy has mentioned, the three-pronged drug strategy. Consists of being proactive with the enforcement. Secondly, utilizing external partnerships, not only just with other police forces, but as well as utilizing the recovery programs and intervention clinics in the province. Third, with education and awareness in schools, but also with police members being more visible in our community. And members of the police commission, the governing body of the police force, but ultimately it's the police department that's in charge of the day-to-day implementation. And I have tremendous faith in that team.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. The next question from the news team. Sports and recreation are key to enjoyment in Weyburn. While the new rec center will be a welcome addition to the city, not every sport will be able to make use of that facility. Will you look at other venue improvements or possible new venues within the city? Mr. Coroluick, you have 2 minutes, starting now.
Yes, and for the question, will you look at other venue improvements or possible new venues? The short answer to that question is, of course, yes. We would look at new improvements, ideas, and recreational activities. Back in 2012, Weyburn put together a facility plan, and it was just recently, pretty well, a huge number of those were completed. with the new paddling pool at Don Mitchell Park, the spray park in River Park, and of course the Credit Union Spark Center. And now, through the Recreation Department, it's going to be reviewed in 2021. And so with that in mind, if anybody does have some new ideas for recreation concepts, contact Andrew at the City Hall with the Recreation Department, get your idea in for the new strategy. Here are the points that the city is going to be working with. The leisure facility plan will be developed to ensure that investments in sport, culture, and recreation infrastructure occur in a manner that enhances the quality of life by meeting the needs of the highest priority needs, and is aligned with the City of Weyburn long-term infrastructure plan, and of course is fiscally responsible. But first, remember, it's always best to budget and plan for things like that. So if you have an idea or a concept, contact the Recreation Department, get it in with the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Coroluick. And Mr. Roy, your 2 minutes begin now.
To start off with, in the community center that's being constructed, our city staff has really worked hard to include as many sports as possible under one roof. Out in the field, we're going to have soccer, football, baseball. There'll be batting cages. Upstairs, there's going to be a running and walking track, pickleball courts, half courts. There's going to be a climbing center on the side that is humongous, a $350,000 climbing center for people 12 years and under. Connecting atrium is going to go to the school, so after 4 p.m., you can be able to make use of their level 3 basketball court. This encompasses a huge amount of people already. We have attached an NHL-size outdoor hockey rink, complete with a Zamboni out there. In the summer, there'll be 3 basketball courts in that area that was playing hockey. We're actively working with minor ball right now to assist in improving baseball fields and looking at projects into the future. We look at the new scoreboards that the minor ball has put up. We are assisting them as best that we possibly can. We have tried to include as many sports as possible. We work with the Agriculture Society and are always through our leasing of grounds there. And so we've got curling, and we also have the hockey rinks over there, and we're moving forward as best as that we possibly can. But again, we have to get control of the Cognate Center. There's been a lot of issues with that between the school board and ourselves and how that's been handled. That has to be rectified so that it can open it up far greater to the public and have far more access. And that is one of the things that I most certainly will want to review. I know it'd be contentious with the school board, but a lot of people have put a lot of money from the community into that, and we seem to have a lot of lack of control on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. Now, Weyburn has a proud history of involvement with the Communities in Bloom program. It brings recognition to the city for the beauty of the city and utilization of green spaces. Will this program be pursued post-COVID-19? Mr. Roy, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, most definitely. Council wants to look at a citywide campaign of a spring cleanup campaign. We used to run the Golden Garbage Award years ago with Estevan. That kind of faltered to the side, but we want to, there's been talk about planning of how to do a citywide kind of ward system of beautifying Weyburn and doing the cleanup. The Community in Blooms, I know that we've been a part of it. We have the kickoffs. We always have the beautification of flowers downtown. We're going to continue forward with this. Post-COVID, COVID has changed a lot of stuff. People have cut back a lot on money, but we want to bring this back and let's keep it beautifying the city through flowers, through cleanup, through tree maintenance, all those things to just keep Weyburn looking as beautiful as it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. Mr. Coroluick, you have 2 minutes, beginning now.
Communities in Bloom program, I believe, is actually sponsored by SPRA, Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association. And so I'm not sure if they've made that decision, if they're going to be pursuing it after the pandemic or for 2021 or not. However, hopefully it is, because it was, I think, quite beneficial. Most important reason to be involved with any program is, of course, first of all, the cost and benefit to the community. And for an example, I have no idea as what the cost was for Weyburn to simply be involved with the competition. But I do feel that the benefits of any competition, number one, it's community pride, and number two, what it does is it puts a sense of urgency on the whole program. We do have tremendous support from the recreation department, from the works department, putting the flowers in our community and decorating and helping clean for sure. However, competition does another thing, and that it gets the entire community involved with it. The other thing that would be needed, however, before we could actually do a communities in Bloom program, as far as I'm concerned, is that we need a chairman, or we need a champion to lead that charge. It's so much easier for us to have success if there's a chairperson that really wants to form a team and make us the best and most colorful community. Just like, as the mayor has mentioned, the old golden garbage kind of competition with Estevan, that improved the cleanliness of the community, but the biggest thing that it did was it got the biggest benefit was that it got all of our residents involved with it, and it created a sense of pride in each of our different neighborhoods. So commend that. That champion is what's needed, and as long as the cost is not outrageous, then we go for it. You betcha.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. Now, noise levels have been mentioned as a concern for many on some of the major thoroughfares in the community. What options would you present to council and administration to help to address these concerns? Mr. Coroluick, you have 2 minutes.
Maybe a little bit underarmed on this, but from what I understand, that this actual question came from an area right on Government Road and First Avenue North. And that was to do with larger trucks coming through town this past spring and summer. And I certainly hope that this is a temporary situation, because I do know that the City of Weyburn is in partnership with the RM and the Minister of Highways and Infrastructure on a Weyburn Regional Transportation Study. That the truck and dangerous goods route review was included with recommendations to move the actual truck route. So we may not have larger trucks going through that would cause that issue. This is a future partnership between the province, city, and the RM, of course, to implement. And that's all that I know about this particular question as far as the noise, and from what I could gather with talking to administration about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. And Mr. Roy, 2 minutes.
Well, the council was involved in this regional traffic study in conjunction with the province and the RM. Post-election was set for the time when to start addressing a lot of these problems and issues and starting implementing them and following the studies that were recommended. There's recommendations were set in 3 different priorities. One of the ones that was a kind of a provincial priority was the widening of the Highway 35 South and number 39 Southeast. The Estevan, that has already been implemented, and that is more of the highways, part of highways on there, but it all kind of blends and dovetails in with our regional traffic study. So when we start talking about looking at the traffic routes and dangerous goods routes and such, there becomes a high cost of building up these roads. So that's where we have to talk to both the provincial government, RM, and city as prioritizing, and also setting a budget to build these roads up so that we can have this dangerous goods route going around. Estevan has seen a ring going around them. At times that you hear people say that was not quite the best idea, simply because it cut out a lot of businesses. So we have to be very conscious about making sure our businesses are not going to suffer when we have, if they were going to try to put a large ring road around Weyburn, because that is not what we as a council, or I wouldn't want to see happen. We have to deal with what we are looking at within Weyburn itself and keeping our businesses flourishing by traffic coming through. Another reason to look at the routes is for keeping our roads from falling apart, though, on the heavy trucks. So we have to make sure the weights are right and they're not exceeding weights and not pounding out our roads. As you see at 16th Street and First Avenue, there's a heavy ruts in there. We're looking at trying to rectify those type of problems. So again, it's a very large, detailed thing. We do have a plan. We have a strong plan. It's been studied, and we're going to be going forward here post-election.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. And this is the final question from the news team. Now, one issue of contention among citizens of Weyburn has been speed limits. Are you in favor of increasing it to 50 kilometers an hour unless otherwise designated to bring Weyburn in line with most other urban municipalities within the country? Mr. Roy, you have 2 minutes.
The traffic bylaw was another item set to be reviewed post-election, as were a few other. The bylaws have to be updated, as every council should do. There are many things to be changed and updated. One thing to be changed for the better already has been a left turn at 3rd Street and Service Avenue. That's been done away with, and that's because it is no longer necessary, and that has seen a huge improvement of moving of the traffic downtown. So when the traffic bylaw was reviewed a couple of years ago, council voted to maintain the 40 kilometers through the city with a few exceptions. Our new chief of police, Jamie Blunden, is an advocate of the idea of lower speeds result in less damage in the event of an accident. So we hired these people for their advice and perspective. We should strongly consider that advice. Continuing forward, to me, that is the part of the speed has already been put to rest a couple of years ago, but we're going to look at many other things that are within that bylaw.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. And Mr. Coroluick, you have 2 minutes beginning now.
I looked at the question, are you in favor of increasing it to 50K unless otherwise designated? And personally, yeah, I am. And I'm in favor of the 50K in most areas and 40 in the school zones. And I have been that way for years. However, our most current council approved the most recent bylaw just a few years ago. When those zones were approved, I know council had discussed the plan thoroughly. They heard from the community and made the decision. I support their decision and see no reason to revisit this with the new council unless the majority of citizens request it. I don't believe in make work projects because of my own personal point of view. Other things that would have to be is the mayor has mentioned about the traffic bylaws. Those have to be always revisited on a regular basis, of course, because our city's traffic patterns do change. But specifically to the 50K, and that's how I feel, and I would not make any changes unless the members of council and the communities want it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. And now we will go to the questions that have been posed by the public. Now, these questions I know you have not had the opportunity to read, so a little bit of flying by the seat of our pants here.
Okay.
And Mr. Coroluick, you will, in the order, you will go first for this question. As mayor, what will you do to enhance the visibility of Indigenous and Métis culture within the city? You have 2 minutes.
Enhance the visibility and the culture of the Métis and the First Nations. I believe that, number one, I think that we have to have knowledge of the cultures and get to know each other. Like I believe in relationship building on a one-on-one basis, face-to-face basis, and I'm assuming that we would have groups. We've just recently did the Treaty 4 announcement, and we're getting involved more and more with the First Nations, and I believe that we have to have a relationship built with anybody that we're doing business with, and that will give us a strong community as well. I know that there's a number of First Nation groups that have funds available for economic development, and I'd like to see us be involved with that. But I don't expect to go and sell our stuff, our ideas to someone that isn't ready to buy either. I'd like to make sure that when we do are able to work with any group, that we are going to know that it's going to fit within our community and we'll be all a part of it, so that we can buy into the whole concept 100%.
Thank you. And Mr. Roy, you have 2 minutes.
Inclusion is the main topic here, and we have to include all people who are within our trading area, within our community, and that includes First Nations. We can see this because I've attended a blanket ceremony, so you're getting to know and understand the people that are about and within our community. We've had, there's going to be one pipe ceremony, which I wasn't included at this time prior to the election, for the new hospital area. There's going to be other pipe ceremonies going on. That is a part of the culture, and we're including it. We've had, again, First Nations days here in Weyburn already. There's council has talked about erecting a flag for recognition of both down by the river and also at City Hall in recognition of First Nations. These are things that we include to say that inclusion is very important here in the city. We're all working together. This is a Saskatchewan thing. The prairies are a tough area, both in summer and winter time. No one has to be excluded. We all have to survive here together, and we can partner together to educate and promote their culture. That is really great. Their culture, other cultures, all through Weyburn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. And the next question from the public at large is, would you be in favor of the city assuming control of the Weyburn Golf Course debt included? Why or why not? Mr. Roy, you have 2 minutes.
This was a question that was brought forward once before to council, and at that point in time, council played back to them that we needed a business plan. Hey, and this is first and foremost, this is in the RM, and that is the place where the golf course has to start off with. Get a partnership there, built there, get a relationship built there, and from there they move it towards Weyburn. It is very far out, and it kind of gets into the idea that where does the city stop being involved outside of our city limits, and where do we bring it in? I know and I understand that golf is a very important part of our culture and recreation within our city, but at the same time, with it laying outside the in the RM, that is the first step that they have to look at. We would have to look, if we were going to do anything, a partnership with the RM.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. Mr. Coroluick, you have 2 minutes, beginning now.
There's no doubt that the Weyburn Golf Course is an integral part of our recreation facilities and a huge part of our tourism as well. Golfing brings people from many miles, and everybody's wanting to try out a different course, and we've got a beautiful course. They've in the more recent past, they've certainly had financial issues, and they've the financial issues that they've been facing are certainly infrastructure related, but possibly as well. I understand that it has something to do with the taxation through RM and how they're labeled. Would I be wanting? Was the question a part, Stephen? Was it? Would I want it a part of the city recreation?
Yes, like would this essentially, would it be a municipal course similar to what you would find in cities like Regina?
I'm not sure if I would go along with that. I'd want to find out a little bit more as like what the cost outlay would be. Definitely would need a consultation with the RM as well, because the partnership between the RM and the city would be very important on this, because as Mr. Roy has mentioned, that it is located physically in the RM of Weyburn, so we'd have issues that way as well. But there's pros and cons on that. Like there's to bring it into the recreation, then we'd have our equipment and our people that would be running that, and back and forth. It just may not be cost effective for anybody. Main thing is do everything in our power to make sure that it is strong and viable, though.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. And the next question from the public, How will you help the community in terms of increasing safe street crossings in high traffic areas, such as the intersection of 16th Street and Cotto Avenue? Mr. Coroluick.
16th and Cotto is the intersection that was mentioned there?
Yeah.
Well, the traffic study would be the first step, and I believe very much in having experts get the information for us as far as what is really needed for different signals and different controls. Not just the 16th and Cotto, but even out on the highway from Highway 39 and 13 Highway has been a concern for a number of years. And that I know is in the traffic study with the province. And now with the number of businesses that we have just west of our city on 13 Highway, and more coming, especially the new co-op home and hardware center, I think that we're going to have to look at that as well. Number one, I'd be hearing from the study first and find out where the most priorities are. I certainly don't want to have anything unsafe, and we want to make sure that things are going to be running as smooth as possible through there. A four-way stop at that 16th and Cotto, I think, has been quite effective. I don't think that it's been outlandish with as far as being unsafe, but it's as things grow and mature, yeah, we will have some issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. And Mr. Roy, you have 2 minutes, starting now.
Well, for safety in some of these intersections, the city has looked at some of these intersections through the regional traffic study. Not only as and it gets kind of down to what intersections are we looking at, because we've got lots of other problems with a lot of schools there. You go down the street, down to 16th Street and 5th Avenue, there's another one where kids are crossing the street. Within a year or two, we may not see quite as much traffic there at 16th and Cotto, simply because the school will be moved, but then that'll just push it to different areas. Already we can show how we are, as a city, have been proactive in what we've been doing. St. Mike's is a very good example. We've now, just in the recent few weeks here, the chief of police has come up, they've talked to the basic principal there, looked at how the streets are going. They've expanded the 30K zone, the school zone, and that just through talking with an engineer, we've expanded that. We're trying it out. There's going to be a three-way stop being put up shortly there. There's going to be other parking measures being put up. So we don't need to go into a very heavy extra study being done here with a lot more cost. What we've already got a regional regional traffic study being done, and from this regional traffic study, the people that we've employed, we've got very good staff here, can look at it between an engineer, a chief of police, and there. Children's safety is our #1 priority. Safety for the community is the #1 priority. And already we've gone to SGI. We put up new flashing lights there at 13th Street and Cotto Avenue. On there, they're all solar. We've gotten grants for that. We've got more in the queue. So it all takes time to go forward with this, but we are looking at this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. And the final question. Weyburn has played host or does play host on a regular basis to a number of international and national events, such as the Oil and Gas Show, and in the past, the RBC Cup and the ESSO Cup. In a post-COVID economy, what initiatives would you use to bring more attractions like that to the city of Weyburn? Mr. Roy, you have 2 minutes.
In a post-COVID one, and that's kind of a funny way of putting it, because I think we've changed a lot of the normals as to what has been there. And we're going to be having to be restricted as to government standards, as to what the government's going to allow the size of stuff. Already sitting on the oil board, they've talked about going forward, looking very optimistically that the show will go in next year. And so moving forward with that, how that's going to look, we're going to have to look to government standards. What are we as a city? We're just going to say we're open for business, but again, within the restrictions of the city. We have to be very easy to work with. That is the first and number one priority. I always said, cut the red tape, be easy to work with, and that's what we want to do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Coroluick.
Well, post-pandemic even means 3 years from now, of course. So for the initial year, this year coming up, I tend to feel the same thing, that we will be following whatever the provincial guidelines are, and we will be working with safety first as much as we possibly can, because that we don't want to create and add to the pandemic issue by having too many people in one location. As far as future, though, most of these things take plans and planning for a long time, not just 6 months to a year. So I think we continue on as we've had in the past and start planning for longer than just this upcoming year. And if just like we had planned with the summer games years and years ago, that didn't take place in just a 12-month period. It was a longer period of time than that. And I think we start planning as per normal, because we know that the pandemic is not going to be holding us back for life. It'll be a temporary thing, and maybe 1 year and 2 years at the most.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coroluick. And that was the final question that we had for our forum. I would like to thank the two of you for taking the time to join us here today. And for those of you who are watching, thank you very much for taking your time to watch this forum. And remember to cast your ballots on Election Day here in the municipal election.